I never thought my cousin Sean would be the one to betray me so completely. Growing up, we were practically inseparable, our bond formed by shared troublemaking, and the strange sense of kinship that blossoms when kids from two broken households hang on to one another for solace. Sean's mother was my mom's sister, so we were blood relatives through and through, but the lines between cousin and best friend were always blurred. It was a running joke in our small neighborhood that wherever you saw me, Ethan, you'd see Sean lurking within shouting distance. Our older relatives shook their heads at how we fed off each other's impulses. If we got in trouble, we did it together. If we got grounded, we ended up turning those punishments into sneaky meetups, whispering across the fence in the backyard, figuring out how to bypass the watchful eyes of our overbearing parents. Ethan, get your butt over here. Your cousin's roped you into another stupid idea, hasn't he? My mother would yell at least twice a week back in middle school. And Sean's aunt, my mom's sister, would echo a similar sentiment at her house. Sean, that cousin of yours is going to make a delinquent out of you both if you don't stop sneaking out at night. Sean and I would just grin at each other. We wore those warnings like badges of honor, forging a brotherhood out of them. The trouble was always worth it to us, because we had each other's backs. Sean had a quick tongue and an easy laugh. He'd banter with teachers until they threatened him with detention. Meanwhile, I was the quieter one, though I'd throw in a sarcastic remark here or there. Our parents never fully got a handle on us. But, ironically, we rarely took it too far. We just needed to blow off steam from home lives that were, to be blunt, messed up. Sean's father was rarely around, drifting in and out of his life, while my own father took off for good when I was small. Our mothers struggled, and sometimes they took it out on us. Rather than let that tension break us, we used it to form a rebellious ride-or-die dynamic. Even when we got older and parted ways a bit in high school, that core loyalty never wavered, or so I believed. Sometime around 10th grade, Tina moved to our school from a different district. She was confident, witty, and had this kind of sarcastic grin that made you wonder what jokes she was quietly telling herself. Sean and I had been known to flirt with girls, but somehow Tina stood apart. We both noticed her the same week. "Check out the new girl by the lockers," Sean said, nudging me between classes. I caught a glimpse of her, long dark hair, wearing a vintage rock band t-shirt, rolling her eyes at some teacher's instructions. She looked so unfazed by everything around her, like the high school drama was beneath her. "She's interesting," I replied. "I might ask her out," Sean said, grinning. "Unless you're gonna call dibs." He said it like a challenge, but we had a code. We never let a girl break our bond. If one of us liked her, we'd talk it out. Usually, we ended up stepping aside for each other. With Tina, it turned out she was more drawn to me from the start. Sean gave me the green light, though I caught a flicker of something in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe. But he never let on beyond that. Instead, he slapped me on the back and said, "Go for it, man. Don't let me stand in your way." So I asked Tina out a few weeks later, fumbling over my words in front of her locker. She said yes. Just like that, we began dating. Sean remained a presence in our life, but he mostly joked around, not showing any signs of jealousy. I thought we'd breeze through potential drama unscathed. Tina and I dated through the rest of high school. We had normal teenage ups and downs, but I was smitten. She was sharp-tongued, never tolerated any nonsense, and had a rebellious streak that matched the one Sean and I cultivated. By graduation, I felt sure I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. She seemed to feel the same. Sean stuck by us as a close friend, though he sometimes teased me about settling down too young. I teased him back about how he'd never find someone who could handle his wisecracks. But as it turned out, Sean did find someone eventually. Maria. More on that later. In our mid-20s, Tina and I made it official. We had a decent-sized wedding, our families crammed into a rental hall with garish wallpaper. Sean was my best man. During the ceremony, I recall him standing behind me, occasionally giving me a half smile I interpreted as pride and excitement. But now, looking back, I wonder if it wasn't a grin of someone harboring a smug secret. When the priest pronounced us husband and wife, I felt like I'd achieved something monumental. My mother cried tears of joy, and my aunt gave me a shaky hug, muttering, "I always knew you'd turn out all right." Sean clapped me on the shoulder. "Congrats, buddy," he said, leaning in. "You got yourself a good one." I laughed, too caught up in the moment to notice anything amiss. If only I'd known what truly happened that day. We started our life in a little rental house on a tree-lined street. Tina found a job as an office coordinator for a marketing firm, while I jumped between a few gigs before settling in a decent position at a logistics company. Money was tight at first, but we managed. Sean, meanwhile, was traveling a lot for work. He eventually met Maria, a driven entrepreneur who owned her own small business. They got married a few years after us in a smaller but still lovely ceremony. On weekends, we'd have double dates, barbecues, or watch football. I always treated Sean as a brother and Maria as a sister. Sometimes I'd notice little looks Sean and Tina exchanged, but I chalked it up to the closeness we all shared. Time went on. Sean got busier. Maria's business expanded quickly, and he began working for her. They thrived, financially at least. Meanwhile, Tina and I had occasional spats, mostly about finances or the fact that we were trying to have a baby and couldn't conceive. She got moody. I tried to be supportive. Sean hardly visited alone anymore, so I assumed any weird vibe between him and Tina had vanished. One evening, a Wednesday, I was supposed to meet my neighborhood buddies at the park for a quick workout and pick up basketball. But a freak storm blew in earlier than forecasted, soaking us all. I headed back home, arriving nearly 2 hours ahead of schedule. When I walked into the living room, I noticed 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, fresh stains of red at the bottom. Tina popped in from the kitchen, eyes wide. "Oh, hey," she said, her voice catching for a second. "You're early." My gaze flicked to the glasses. "Weather ruined the game," I replied. "What's with the wine? Were you entertaining someone?" She fumbled. Yeah, actually. Maria stopped by for a quick chat. She was in town suddenly." She waved her hand in the air as if that sealed the explanation. But I knew for a fact Maria was overseas on business. She had posted about it on social media, we'd all heard. I stared at Tina. She forced a nervous laugh. "Maybe she was just passing through. I forgot to tell you." I felt something churn in my gut, but I let it drop for the moment, not wanting to start a fight without proof. That night, after Tina went to bed, I tossed and turned. My instincts screamed that she was lying. The next day, I casually texted Sean. "Hey man, has Maria come back home? Tina said she stopped by last night." Sean replied instantly, "No, she's still in Europe for a few more weeks. Why?" I stared at my phone, anger coiling like a snake in my stomach. Tina had blatantly lied. The only reason that made sense was an affair. My mind whirled to the possibility that maybe Sean himself had been the visitor, but I didn't want to accuse my own cousin and best friend without evidence. That evening, I confronted Tina in our kitchen, my voice trembling more than I'd have liked. "I know Maria's still abroad," I said. "So who was really here yesterday?" She burst into tears, almost on cue. Listen, I'm not cheating," she sobbed, before I even mentioned the word. "I lied about Maria because I was scared you'd judge me for something else. I've been seeing a therapist about my depression, and we sometimes do sessions here. I panicked and said Maria dropped by." I narrowed my eyes, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why would you lie about therapy?" Tina wiped her cheeks. "You always said you didn't believe in depression. I've overheard you complaining it's overdiagnosed. I got so afraid of you mocking me that I lied, okay? I'm sorry." It's true I had once made some offhand remarks about how sometimes people label themselves depressed too easily, but I'd never ridiculed legitimate mental health issues. Still, Tina sensed that might be the wedge to throw me off. I asked, "Why mention Maria, though?" She shrugged. I panicked. It was the first name that popped in my head. "If you don't believe me, talk to Sean. He knows. I confided in him." My suspicion deepened. I called Sean later that night while sitting on the back porch. He confirmed it all in a calm, steady tone. "Yeah, bro, she's been really down about not conceiving. She was worried about telling you, so she came to me. I told her to be strong but keep her therapy private if it made her more comfortable. Don't push her, okay?" It sounded suspiciously rehearsed. But I had zero proof, and Tina stuck to her story. My mind reeled. Was she telling the truth? Was I just being an insecure jerk? I didn't want to crush her if she was genuinely dealing with depression. So I decided to take a cautious approach. I installed hidden cameras in our living room, kitchen, and the hallway. Nothing elaborate, just small motion-activated devices. I rationalized it by telling myself if I was wrong, I'd see no suspicious activity and remove them. Weeks passed with nothing incriminating. Tina didn't host any more therapy sessions at home, or if she did, they weren't caught on the cameras. She seemed calmer than ever, which made me feel like maybe I'd overreacted. But I kept the cameras running, just in case. Eventually, I found something. One lazy Saturday, while Tina ran errands, I skimmed through the stored footage. I came across a clip from a day Sean visited. We hung out in the living room, joking about old times. Then I left to rummage in the garage for a board game. On camera, the second I was gone, Sean headed to the kitchen. He and Tina bickered in hushed tones, though the audio was faint. I pressed the volume higher. You gotta handle your side, Tina hissed. I can't keep stalling Ethan, Sean whispered. Relax. Maria's about to finalize some share transfers in her company. Once that's done, I'll file for divorce. Then you can ditch Ethan and we'll do this our way. Tina put her hands on her hips. It's been months. I'm tired of sneaking. You said I should wait to divorce Ethan after you took care of your business with Maria. I've done everything you wanted. Lied about the therapist. Lied about everything. So do it. They ended the tense exchange by falling into a passionate kiss. My blood ran cold as I watched. Moments later, Sean calmly waltzed back into the living room, and I returned from the garage, all smiles, clueless about the betrayal a mere minute earlier. My vision blurred with rage and heartbreak. My own cousin, the one who used to knock on my bedroom window late at night so we could play video games, was sleeping with my wife behind my back. Not only that, they had a scheme involving him divorcing Maria for her company shares, and Tina divorcing me afterward, presumably so they could unite and enjoy the spoils. I felt sick. Hours passed as I stared at the paused video. Part of me wanted to drive to Sean's place and deck him. Part of me wanted to storm upstairs and curse Tina out, but I decided to be strategic. If they were cunning enough to plan it like this, I needed a plan of my own. First, I reached out to Mariah. We were never super close, but she was family by marriage. She deserved to know. I sent her a message. We need to talk, privately. She agreed to meet me at a quiet coffee shop one afternoon. When she walked in, her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she had that poised, businesslike posture she always carried. "What's going on, Ethan?" she asked, concern in her voice. I slid my phone toward her. "Watch this." I queued up the recorded segment, bracing myself for her reaction. She stared at the screen, cheeks blanching as she saw Sean and Tina in the kitchen. By the time the video ended with them kissing, her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. "Those bastards," she whispered, blinking rapidly to hold back tears. I had suspicions, but nothing concrete. Sean started pushing me to sign over certain shares of my business. He claimed it was for tax reasons, and then he'd pay me for them eventually. Something felt off, but I never thought he and Tina... She trailed off, chest heaving with anger. I can't believe he'd stoop this low. "And your wife." "I'm so sorry, Ethan." I shook my head. "Don't be. I'm sorry you have to see this. He's conning both of us." She inhaled deeply, struggling to regain composure. "Then let's take him down. I'm divorcing him." I refuse to let him walk away with what he's trying to steal. We spent hours mapping out a plan. I offered to gather more evidence if needed, but she said the footage was enough to establish infidelity. She had top-tier lawyers on speed dial. Sean would be blindsided. Meanwhile, I decided to let them think I was still clueless, giving Maria time to finalize her legal strategy. Once she was ready, I'd file for divorce from Tina and ensure she walked away with next to nothing. "We'll corner them from both sides," Maria said, her eyes blazing with cold fury. "They won't see it coming." I nodded. "I just want them to pay for all the lies, especially Sean. He was more than a cousin to me." Her voice was gentle. "You have me in your corner now. We'll figure it out." Over the next few weeks, Maria served Sean divorce papers. He panicked, apparently not expecting it to happen so soon. She refused to disclose the real reason behind it in the official documents, but she let him know privately, "I've got proof you were unfaithful." She threatened to drag his name through the mud in court if he challenged her or tried to fight for half her business. Sean relented, playing along for a minimal settlement. Maria didn't want to be petty with lawsuits if she could get him to sign away any claim to her company. She gave him a smaller sum of money just to expedite the process. He agreed, on the condition that she keep it quiet for now. He must have thought it gave him time to spin a new plan with Tina. They apparently were counting on the money he'd get from Maria, though it turned out to be less than he'd hoped. Meanwhile, I pretended life was normal, going to work, coming home to Tina. She had no clue about the cameras, no clue I'd talked to Maria. I started hiding my finances, funneling a large chunk of savings to my mother's account. I told my mother, "Just hold on to it, I'll explain later." She sensed something was off, but trusted me enough not to pry. Tina was initially perplexed by my sudden lack of interest in her routine, but I masked my anger with a calm indifference. If anything, she seemed relieved that I wasn't snooping around. It never occurred to her that I already knew everything. One afternoon, about a week before I planned to drop the divorce papers on Tina, I got a call from an old friend, Paul. We hadn't spoken in months, so I answered with curiosity. "Hey man, long time no talk," I said, stepping outside onto the porch. Paul sighed heavily on the other end. "Ethan, listen. I just heard from a mutual friend that you and Tina might be splitting up. News travels fast, I muttered. Yeah, we're not good. He cleared his throat. I'm sorry. Look, I'm calling because there's something you should know. I've been holding it in for years. Alarm bells chimed in my head. What is it? Paul paused, then spoke in a shaky voice. Remember your wedding day? I saw something happen that I should have told you about, but my wife convinced me to keep quiet for the sake of your marriage. Honestly, I was scared, and I was young. But now, hearing that your marriage is ending anyway, I feel I owe it to you to come clean. My heart pounded. Spit it out, Paul. What did you see? He took a deep breath. A few hours before the ceremony, while everyone was bustling around, I went to use the restroom near the back hallway. I walked in on Sean and Tina in there. They were, in an intimate position. Clothes were mostly on, but it was obvious they were hooking up. She was still in part of her wedding dress, Ethan. I freaked out and rushed out. Later, Sean found me and basically threatened me not to mention it. Tina caught me in the hall too, telling me that if I said anything, I'd be ruining your life for no reason. I felt my knees go weak. Jesus, I whispered. You saw them in the restroom? Right before the ceremony? Paul's voice quivered. Yes, I'm sorry, man. I was torn. My wife said telling you would blow up the wedding and cause chaos in your family. She insisted maybe it was a one-time thing. But now that it's all unraveling, I can't keep quiet. You deserve the truth. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Paul, I said, trying to keep steady. Thank you for telling me. I wish you had done it sooner, but I get it. Please don't mention this to anyone else. He let out a shaky breath. You got it. I'm sorry again. I hung up and stood there on the porch, stinging with renewed betrayal. Tina and Sean were apparently hooking up hours before she walked down the aisle to marry me. That knowledge felt like a new dagger, twisting deeper than anything else so far. My anger boiled into something darker, sharper. I wanted more than just a clean divorce. I wanted revenge, ugly, punishing revenge. The following week, I acted on my plan. Early in the morning, I woke Tina up, tossing a stack of papers on the bed. She stirred groggily. What's that? She mumbled. Divorce papers, I said calmly. Sign them. She blinked, fully awake now. What are you talking about? I'm done, Tina, I said, voice icily controlled. We're getting divorced. She stared at me, probably expecting some dramatic confrontation about therapy or not being able to get pregnant. Instead, I gave her no explanation. I let her flounder. You can't just drop this on me at sunrise, she snapped. What the hell, Ethan? I shrugged. It's happening. You can sign amicably or we can go to court and fight about it, but I promise you, I'll come out on top. Her eyes flashed with panic, but also I saw a glimmer of relief, as though she'd been waiting for this. She tried to muster some protest. If this is about me not getting pregnant, that's unfair. You're bailing on me. It's not about that, I interrupted. I just don't love you anymore. She narrowed her eyes. Fine, she said, sounding suspiciously calm for someone losing her marriage. Send me the papers when they're finalized. I'll consider them. 2 days later, we hammered out a settlement that heavily favored me, thanks to my hidden finances. She walked away with a modest sum. I kept the house. She barely contested it, likely hoping Sean would soon deliver on his big promises. I could practically see the gears in her head turning. Great. Now I can be with Sean. They must have imagined themselves living happily ever after, supported by whatever money he'd gleaned from Maria. Except Sean's chunk of Maria's business was far smaller than he'd planned, because Maria had locked him out. Nonetheless, he and Tina got married in a quiet ceremony soon afterward, word of which rippled through the family. People whispered that the timeline was suspicious, but I mostly tuned out the gossip. Things took a twist when Tina announced she was pregnant, passing around speculation that it might be mine. She even called me up one evening, speaking in a near taunting tone. Ethan, you know how timing can be fuzzy. Maybe this baby is yours. Don't you want to be sure? I pressed my phone closer to my ear. Don't try to pin that on me, I said coldly. If you really believe there's a chance, we'll do a DNA test once the baby's born. Until then, don't contact me about it. She huffed. You're a real piece of work, Ethan. Look who's talking, I snapped, ending the call. Months later, the baby came. The paternity test proved I wasn't the father. She tried to guilt me anyway, maybe fishing for some form of child support, but I slammed the door on that conversation. I owe you nothing, I told her, absolutely nothing. She cursed at me, called me a heartless bastard. After hearing about her and Sean hooking up on my wedding day, I felt no sympathy. As the weeks passed, my anger didn't subside. If anything, the friend's revelation about that pre-wedding fling ate at me constantly. I realized I wanted a more tangible revenge. Divorcing Tina had cut her off from my life, yes. But Sean's betrayal demanded a stronger response. He was the one who had once been my closest confidant, and turned around to do the most disgraceful thing possible. I became single-minded in my pursuit of punishing him. I started reaching out to old contacts, searching for someone who could orchestrate a coincidental confrontation, a beating that wouldn't be traced back to me. Eventually, I connected with a guy named Lucas, an acquaintance from high school who'd fallen into a rough biker crowd. Lucas and I had parted ways after graduation. He was known to handle messy work for cash, no questions asked. He picked up my call on the second ring. "Yo, Ethan, long time," he said. "Didn't expect to hear from you." I cut to the chase. "I have a job for you. I want to teach someone a lesson, and I need deniability." He let out a laugh. "Oh, you're looking for trouble, huh? This about money or payback?" I clenched my jaw. "Payback?" I said. "He's family, but he crossed a line." Lucas's tone turned serious. "If you want me and my guys to handle it, we need details. We ain't murderers, so if you want him gone for good, that's not our game. But if you want him roughed up, maybe a hospital stay, we can do that." I exhaled. "I just want him in pain. He needs to know not to mess with me again. I don't care if he's laid up for a while. Don't kill him, though." Lucas's voice held a hint of dark amusement. "Hospital it is. Send me info on his routines, what car he drives, usual routes. We'll coordinate a road rage incident. That's usually easy to stage." I felt a surge of adrenaline. "Fine. How much?" He named a sum that made me wince, but I didn't flinch. "Deal," I said. "All right, man," Lucas replied. "We'll make sure it looks like an everyday scuffle gone bad. No mention of you. He'll never see our faces. Masks all the way. You get the outcome you want, we get paid. That's simple." I thanked him curtly and ended the call, my heartbeat pounding. Part of me felt sick about stooping to this level, but my anger overshadowed any moral hesitation. Tina and Sean had humiliated me. I wanted him to suffer, physically and psychologically. Sean had recently started doing some side hustles to make up for the lost income from Maria. He'd drive out to industrial areas to pick up supplies or salvage materials. Lucas and I deduced the best place to stage the ambush was along a deserted back road leading to a crumbling warehouse. Sean often traveled that route on Thursdays. I fed Lucas the location, the approximate times, and Sean's car details. A gray SUV with a scuffed front bumper. Lucas assembled his biker crew, 3 guys plus him. They'd wait, disguised with full-face helmets and tinted visors, pretending to be riding through. Then they'd provoke a road rage confrontation that escalated. I wasn't going to be anywhere near it. Lucas promised me a short video clip to prove the job was done. Everything was set. Late on a windy Thursday afternoon, Sean was driving down that deserted stretch of cracked asphalt. Industrial warehouses loomed on either side, most abandoned, graffiti-splashed shells. The wind whipped dust across the road, swirling in little tornadoes. Ahead, Sean spotted 4 motorcycles in a line, going slower than normal. He must have tried to overtake them, but they swerved, boxing him in. Angered, he honked. One biker gestured rudely for him to back off. Sean, hot-headed as always, leaned out his window yelling, "Move it, asshole! I've got places to be!" That was the cue. The bikers abruptly braked, forcing Sean to screech to a stop. Dust billowed. Sean jumped out of his SUV, arms flailing. "You idiots almost made me crash!" he shouted. The bikers, each wearing a black helmet with a mirrored visor, dismounted in unison. One of them pointed at Sean. "You got a problem?" he growled, voice muffled by the helmet. "Yeah, I got a problem," Sean snapped. "You scumbags better watch how you drive." They advanced, forming a half circle around him. Sean's bravado wavered. "What the hell are you doing?" Another biker stepped forward. "We're about to settle this. Big mouth like you should learn to keep quiet." He shoved Sean. Sean stumbled back against the SUV's door. "Back off," he yelled. "You think you're tough wearing masks? Cowards." Without another word, 2 bikers lunged, fists connecting with Sean's midsection and shoulder. He gasped, doubling over. The third biker kicked his legs out from under him, sending him sprawling onto the dusty road. "Get up!" the first biker barked, a malicious sneer in his tone. Sean struggled to his feet, fear now plain on his face, but he tried a wild punch, which the biker easily deflected. Another fist struck Sean's cheek, snapping his head back. He spat blood onto the ground, wincing. "What the?" Is wrong with you, freaks? You're in the wrong place at the wrong time, buddy, said the second biker, landing a brutal elbow to Sean's ribs. Sean howled, flailing to block the blows. One of the bikers grabbed him by the collar, slammed him back into the SUV, and hammered his abdomen with quick jabs. Sean coughed violently, tears streaming as he choked on air. A lead pipe appeared in another biker's hand. Maybe it had been hidden along his motorcycle. He swung it at the SUV's windshield, shattering glass in a deafening crash. Sean flinched, but the first biker landed a punch to his jaw, cutting off his scream. "Stop!" Sean managed to choke out, arms up in surrender. "Enough! I give up! This is insane! You're all out of your minds!" The third biker delivered another vicious kick to Sean's knee, buckling it. Sean collapsed, moaning. The dust settled around his crumpled body. One biker took out a phone and filmed the entire scene, focusing on Sean's busted face, his battered SUV with the windshield caved in. The camera lingered on Sean for a moment while he groaned, clutching his side. "Say cheese," the biker taunted, voice cold. Sean tried to speak, but only a ragged cough emerged. One final stomp from the lead biker hammered Sean's ribs. He gasped in agony. "Think twice before you open that damn mouth again!" A biker hissed. Then, as if orchestrated, they hopped back on their motorcycles and roared away, the entire assault lasting only a few minutes. Dust swirled over Sean's battered frame. A passing truck driver found Sean half-conscious soon afterward. He was rushed to the hospital. Broken ribs, a fractured jaw, bruised kidneys. His knee was twisted badly enough that he needed surgery. The doctors kept him for over a month to heal. Road rage was the official story. Some said Sean incited it. Others believed he was just unlucky. Sean himself might have suspected something else, but with the attackers wearing masks and never uttering my name, he had no proof. That same evening, Lucas sent me a short video file. It showed Sean lying on the ground, coughing blood, while his SUV's windshield lay in shards. My stomach tightened as I watched, a mixture of triumph and grim satisfaction. This was the final piece of retribution I'd been craving. The memory of them hooking up on my wedding day played like a highlight reel in my mind, fueling the dark sense of justice. I stared at Sean's broken figure in the clip, recalling how he had once told me, "We're bonded for life, man. No woman can tear us apart." Yet, ironically, it wasn't just Tina's doing. He had an active hand in every twisted lie, every betrayal, and now he was paying in pain.